All right. Thank you all for being here. Today we are filing a lawsuit on behalf of dozens of men and women who entrusted their life savings, retirement funds, and in some cases borrowed money to a man who called himself Mr. Finance. He promised them a path to financial freedom. Our lawsuit alleges they were left with empty promises, mounting debt, and devastating financial loss. Many of these victims are seniors, retirees, and hardworking members of our faith communities who simply wanted to improve their lives and provide for their families. They deserve answers, accountability, and justice. This case is about giving a voice to people who believe they were investing in their future, only to see years of life savings disappear. We intend to pursue every available avenue to recover what was taken from them and hold these people responsible. Mr. Finance didn't just take money, he took trust. This wasn't Wall Street decisions. These were kitchen table decisions made by people who trusted someone that they saw on billboards, on TV, and listened to on the radio. They believed he shared their same values. Our clients aren't looking for sympathy. They're looking for accountability. For too long, these victims have been ignored, delayed, and strung along with promises that tomorrow will come. Today, tomorrow has arrived. Today, they are standing up together and demanding justice. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jamal Buchanan, the lead attorney on this case. He will detail the allegations, and after that, you'll hear directly from some of the victims.
Thank you, Larry. And good morning. I would like to thank all of you for joining us this morning as we stand here today on behalf of 31 courageous men and women who have come together to seek justice. These individuals are not wealthy investors. The people before you today are hardworking people, retirees, parents, grandparents, and many are members of the Chicagoland faith-based community. Many are African-American seniors who spent decades building up savings and retirement accounts, believing that they were securing a better future for themselves and for their families. However, we filed a complaint this morning that lays out in specific detail that all of these people were victims of a fraudulent scheme curated by Brandon, Mr. Finance, Ellington, and his company, Access Capital Today, Inc. Now, who is Brandon, Mr. Finance? For years, Brandon Ellington marketed himself as Mr. Finance or the millionaire maker. He portrayed himself as a trusted financial expert and community wealth builder. I'm certain that many of us have probably seen his billboards across the city or maybe even heard his advertisements on your favorite radio station. What our lawsuit alleges is that while building that grand image, he concealed the fact that he had previously pled guilty in a federal court case for 2 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of bank fraud in one of the largest mortgage fraud cases in Illinois history. The people before you today were unaware of that piece of history. So how did his scheme work? These people, along with the other people that are a part of our complaint, were encouraged to liquidate their retirement accounts, their 401ks, their annuities, go out and obtain credit cards, and some were even directed to specific banks, and many of them took out loans. Now, everyone was presented with a written contract, and the terms were specifically laid out on what the agreement was with Mr. Finance. Their hard-earned money would be placed into this company's hands, and he promised substantial returns, sometimes returns that were in the range of 50 to 60%. For example, if you invested $25,000, he promised to turn that $25,000 into $40,000 in 12 months, and he would pay you a monthly return of $3,333.33. Now, $25,000 was the lowest on the totem pole that people could invest. Some of the plaintiffs standing before you invested $25,000, $50,000, $75,000, and some even over $100,000, all with the trust and belief that their hard-earned money was in good hands. Now, to gain trust, Mr. Finance would provide some of those monthly payments. Most times, the first 2 or 3 payments were made, oftentimes late, but they were made. After that third payment, it was difficult to get in contact with him. He would stop returning phone calls. He would stop returning emails and text messages. Now, if you were lucky and you were able to get in contact with him, he would offer tons of excuses about how his bank accounts had been frozen, or he was selling a piece of property and he would get you your money back, or he was selling his Range Rover, and a host of other excuses as to why these individuals had not obtained the money that they had contracted for. And as we stand before you today, all 31 plaintiffs have not received the money that they contracted for. Now, according to the findings of the Illinois Secretary of State, their investment money was being used to pay earlier investors in what the Secretary of State has categorized as a Ponzi-like scheme. The Illinois Secretary of State has recently issued an order prohibiting people to do business with Brandon Ellington or with Access Capital Today, Inc. because of this Ponzi-like scheme. This was a Ponzi scheme that was built on trust. Trust through the radio stations. Trust that was built through the churches. Some pastors would invite him to the churches to speak. And this trust was ultimately exploited. Now, some of the plaintiffs have invested over $160,000 after liquidating their retirement funds. One plaintiff was sent to 3 different banks to take out loans for $25,000 at each specific bank. Another plaintiff drew down from her husband's 401k because she wanted to start a business with her daughter. Another plaintiff invested $50,000 and never received one payment. And there's one plaintiff who is retired, but she takes care of her elderly mom and wanted to contribute money to her granddaughter's wedding. And that money is now gone. There are numerous stories as how the plaintiffs were scammed, yet every one of them shared the same story. They trusted, they were duped, and they are now owed money. We filed a complaint this morning that was a 41-page, 9-count complaint against Brandon Ellington and Access Capital Today, Inc. And what are we seeking? We are seeking the return of all money invested and the promised returns for all plaintiffs. We are seeking additional protections and remedies for the elderly victims. Majority of the people that are plaintiffs in this case are elderly. They are retired. They are members of the faith-based community. We're seeking punitive damages for the intentional conduct performed by Brandon Ellington and his company. We would like a complete accounting of all the money that was invested and a constructive trust over Brandon Ellington's assets. We would also like a permanent injunction barring Brandon Ellington from ever operating as a financial professional in Illinois again. Now, Brandon Ellington built a brand around faith, around community, and generational wealth. That's what he was selling to these people, generational wealth. And those values were used as tools against the very people who trusted him. But today, the 31 plaintiffs in our lawsuit are refusing to suffer in silence. And for anyone else who may have been affected, I want you to hear me very clearly. You are not alone. Being deceived does not make you foolish. Mr. Finance was running a very well thought out, intricate, and strategically designed plan to prey on our community. And today, these men and women are standing together to say that no matter how powerful someone appears, no matter how polished the image, nobody is above accountability. So the 31 plaintiffs in the lawsuit that we filed today invested in a promise, but today they are investing in justice. So next, I would like to turn the microphone over to Ms. Melanie Woods, who is one of the plaintiffs in our lawsuit.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm standing, I'll say, on behalf of the 30 other people that are behind me. At no time did we get up one morning and say, we're gonna give Brandon our money. This was, like Mr. Buchanan said, we trusted him to invest. Me personally, I was investing in legacy. I have grandchildren and a great-grandchild, and I was investing in their futures. Brandon completely took advantage of all of us with empty promises, delays, whatever he could do to buy time to get more investors, because that's what we finally figured out he was doing. He was robbing Peter to pay Paul. And one day Peter didn't show up, and that's why we're here. So what we want, the reason why we came to Mr. Buchanan and Mr. Disparti is because we want justice. We want him to be held accountable. And last but not least, we want our money back, all of it, with interest and the promise that he made us in the agreement. Thank you.
And next, I will turn the microphone over to Ms. Louvenier Walker.
Hi, I'm Lavinia Walker. I'm one of the victims as well. And my tears will always be to fight for people, because I don't want nobody that's would come behind me and be a victim to anybody. It's just so hard. I'm not here to be on the news for sympathy. I'm here to fight for justice. And I'm just so hurt behind it, because I put my trust in someone. I love people, but it's just hard to say. I'm just so, I'm lost of words. But in the end, I just want justice for the people. Thank you.
And now we will open up the floor to any questions.
If I may ask, you mentioned that you want a permanent injunction against Mr. Finance. How is that different from the prohibition that Alexis Giannoulias has already issued?
Sure, that was a temporary prohibition, order of prohibition. So it was temporary, but we would want to entertain and push for a permanent injunction barring him. And mainly because Brandon promoted himself as a financial advisor, yet he didn't have any credentials to be a financial advisor. His company was not registered as a company that dealt with investments or could buy and sell securities. So he was duping the community to make them think that he was a person that was actually knowledgeable about these type of investments, when in fact he wasn't.
Was he specifically encouraging people to liquidate their retirement accounts?
Absolutely. That was part of the investment, the passive income. You could take money that you already have saved, share it with him and his company, sit back, and he will pretty much take that money, invest it, and promise you 50 to 60% of return on that money, better than any other investment that you could put out into the stock market or anywhere else. His stance was that he could do better.
You said you wanted additional protections for the seniors that are in this group of plaintiffs. What are those additional protections?
Sure, within our complaint, we filed a complaint based upon the financial exploitation of the elderly. And within that statute, it grants that anyone who contracted with Brandon, who was over the age of 60 at the time, is actually entitled to 3 times the amount that they contracted for.
Do we know where he's at now? I mean, is he still functioning in any capacity?
I'm not sure where he is right now. I do know that other lawsuits have been filed, and he has accepted service on those other lawsuits at his residence. So I'm assuming that he is still in the area.
I know we only have Melody and Olivia speaking publicly, but I'm wondering, can I see just like a show of hands from which of you are victims here of Mr. Finance? If we can just keep them up for a second. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, may I ask Melody and Olivia, if you could just share a little bit more in terms of, would you tell us how when you first spoke to him, what he encouraged you to do, what his pitch was? Can you come up?
Oh, sure. When I met Brandon, we talked about the different programs because he had like 4 or 5 different programs. I opted with the partnership program, whereas I invested $25,000 with the promise of a return, 60%, 40,000. He directed us to certain banks, to certain tellers. No doc, loan. You walk in, show your driver's license, and they deposited the check in like a couple days into my account.
And obviously, you lost that money.
I did.
How does the impact of losing, how does losing $25,000 impact your day-to-day?
You go through the days and try not to think about it. Because if you think about it, you end up thinking that you did something wrong, but we didn't do anything wrong. We trusted somebody to invest our money with a promised return, and he breached his contract.
Where did you pull that money from?
I got a loan from a bank. Yeah.
Well, then may I ask the same question? When you first spoke to him, how much did you invest, and what did he encourage you to do in order to make more money?
Well, the original thing is it was supposed to have been going to several banks. I got mine through a bank. And with, again, the partnership to get a return back each month. And I looked at it as that was a start because I had signed up for school. And so I paid for the school through the credit card because I said when I get the investment, I can pay the school. And during the midst of all of that, I lost my job. I had nothing. I had nothing but God. And I'm still holding on to the faith of knowing that's who I got. As of today, I have every bank's calling me. I was blessed to find a job, but just knowing that I'm looking at the phone, there's someone calling me about the loans, and I tell them the story. I said, and I know that that's not an excuse because that never was my faith to get a loan, and you guys have to call me. And I said, and I'm going to answer. And I said, I'm going to do the best that I can do. And that's all I can do. And I said, but I'm about to lose it all. And like I said, I just found the job. So now I'm trying to play catch up. So, and I'm gonna do my best, what I can do on my end without, because I felt like I was about to have a nervous breakdown. I was in the house by myself, didn't want to see nobody. The only time I would usually come out is I go to the store or go to church. And but one thing about this life, we all have to keep the faith, know that God, He's going to intervene somehow, some way. 75,000.
And you lost your job after you've given him.
Yes,
And
yes, I
obviously you
did.
fell back on it.
Yeah, because with my job, I was able to pay the loans with my job. And then the invested money, I was able to pay some of that back as well. So it's rough, but I know there is a God. And I'm going to be okay now that I've learned how to build my strength and my faith. Because sometimes we go through things in life, we don't know how we're going to survive. And when I hear about people snapping or stressing or whatever, I'm one of those people. But thank God that I know God and I have a relationship with God. You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I guess, is there anything that you'd like to add about the lawsuit that we haven't spoken about?
The only thing that I would add is that, again, if anyone else feels that they have been a victim to Brandon, Mr. Finance, I ask that you reach out to our office because we are ready, willing, and able to help.